Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So we all know that the trucking industry is in the dumps right now, and we are all inclined to find someone to blame. Brokers are taking too much off the top, carriers are agreeing to extremely low rates without negotiating, shippers are holding on to their cash like crazy, and my favorite, which has been a very popular theory as of late, Miranda is to blame because she makes too many market update and forecast videos, making it possible for competition that would have shuttered its doors to actually stay rocking and rolling. So today we're going to make this an educational video and actually dissect the blame game to figure out who should be the scapegoat for the current market. It will be a triggering topic and you guys are going to have a lot of opinions, but I'm actually very interested to see what discussions follow. Ready? Let's go. So yeah, something that we will probably all agree on is that the trucking rates are absolutely ridiculous right now, and they're not in sync or on par with the trucking costs because costs keep going up, whereas trucking rates are extremely low or going down. And it's not just small carriers who are suffering either, although there are some folks who try to say that large carriers are actually benefiting from the situation. The numbers tell a different story. Now, according to the Journal of Commerce, the combined revenue of the 40 largest truckload companies plunged 29.4%, and this is from 2022 to 2023. So I'm going to attach a link down below so you can see how these carriers fared from 2022 to 2023. But just to give you some numbers, JB Hunt revenues fell by 2.9%, Knight-Swift by 13.7%, Schneider by 5.3%, Prime by 3.1%, Landstar by 24.6%, and so on and so forth. That being said, there are 9 companies out of these top 40 that actually recorded an increase in revenue from 2022 to 2023, some by 24.7%. How did this happen? Well, the Journal of Commerce says that in a time of reduced freight demand, acquisitions are key to carriers that want to stimulate revenue growth or add new services. So yeah, it's not just small carriers who are suffering right now. Everyone is in the same boat. Now, as of the beginning of April, I'm sure you guys heard, Canada's Pride Group filed for bankruptcy, 805 trucks and 2,600 trailers in the US and Canada. Then we have Tony Express, a California trucking company and freight brokerage with over 200 employees, shut down after 70 years in business. And finally, Frank Jaregui Trucking, also a California trucking company, 32 drivers shut down after 19 years in business. So looking at the situation, it's absolute crap. Who do we blame? Is it really the YouTube influencers that are causing this freight market crash? Or is it the brokers who are taking too much? Or is it the shippers? Or is it the carriers who are agreeing to haul loads for those low rates? Well, let's dissect one by one. Now let's start with brokers, and this applies mostly to smaller carriers who rely on the spot market like I do. On April 4th, Ken Adamo, the chief of analytics at DAT, once again released the Big Rip Quadrant for March, showing what broker margins were. So here it is, and these are numbers relating to brokers who took over 40% margins. According to Overdrive, the chart shows that in March, 18 accounts on DAT reported an average of 70% margin on 50 loads. That averaged 480 miles. Revenue per load is what the broker charged the shipper. Cost per load is what the broker paid the truck. So those 18 broker accounts, they got paid an average of $2,031 to move each of those 50 loads, then only paid the owner, operator, or carrier an average of $568. But there's also a flip side where brokers recorded a loss. These are the two outliers, the ones that take a ton of money, the ones that actually lose money. And I quote, "The most extreme cases were 76 broker accounts reporting 311 loads where the margin went negative 50%. The average length of haul on these money losers for brokers was 698 miles, and shippers on average paid just $1,391, while carriers got paid $2,054 to haul them. So what is the average? Well, Adamo said that it's around a 15% margin, but there is some difference based on equipment type. That paper found out that mostly broker margins go down as the length of haul gets longer. So if these numbers are really to be believed, then we can see that there are some really bad players out there who take astronomical margins, but there are also some that are struggling. But again, as I said before, larger carriers, they don't depend on brokers as much. They're struggling, but they're not as exposed to the spot market. They work with shippers. So let's talk about shippers. Unfortunately, because there is no broker transparency, there is not much data out there that tells us what shippers actually pay. But I can tell you my personal experience is that in March, I had to deal with several direct shippers on accident, and they're holding on to their cash like crazy. What do I mean when I say I accidentally had to deal with direct shippers? Well, very often I am seeing that shippers will give their loads to brokers and then will post the load themselves. Now, a few months ago, if you were to ask me, I would tell you that my guys who went to these shippers to pick up a load, they found out that brokers were keeping 20 to 40% of what the shipper actually paid. But March was significantly different. Just last week, I was looking for a load from Idaho, and there were 3 loads posted, same lane, Idaho to Nevada, by 3 different brokers. One broker paid $1,900 on the load. That's what it was posted for. Another guy was paying $2,000 on the load, and a third was paying $2,150, but that broker had a horrible credit score. All of these with Deadhead were paying less than $2 per mile, which was crap. But then all of a sudden I see another load pop up, same lane, Idaho to Nevada, but this happens to be the direct shipper. So putting 2 and 2 together, I figured that this is the guy who gave his load to 3 different brokers who posted it, but then he decided to post it himself without a rate. So what do? Of course, I called the direct shipper. And when I started asking him about the rate, he told me $2,000 max. When I tried to negotiate with him, he literally started yelling at me on the phone saying that this is what it pays. He has already sold multiple loads like this, and then he hung up on me. So one broker was trying to make $100 profit. The other broker was trying to make $0 profit from the rate that was posted. And the third with the bad credit score doesn't count because if we booked through him, he wouldn't have paid anyway. And this is not the first time something like this happened in March. It happens a lot in Texas, where a bunch of brokers post the same lane and then the direct shipper posts that load as well without a rate. And when you call them, you find out that they are paying crap and it's not negotiable. So now, of course, if shippers are being stingy, it must be because carriers are actually agreeing to these crap rates. Just like that direct shipper from last week told me, he already sold multiple loads at $2,000. It is a good point, and it's a huge problem in this industry. There are many carriers who will panic and grab anything just to keep rolling, not considering the fact that they're actually losing more than they are gaining. But there are also carriers who have a completely different cost per mile than me or you or anyone else, because they don't have truck payments, trailer payments, physical damage insurance, payroll, and so on and so forth. And that cheaper rate actually results in a profit for them, while it would result in a loss for me, you, or someone else. So considering the fact that all of our operations are very different with different costs, here's a theoretical question for you. Why would a carrier who can make a profit off a lower rate per mile care about you, me, or anybody else? In their eyes, they can make a profit, and if you can't, that's not their problem. And now think about it this way. If you can make a profit of 70 cents per mile on a $2 per mile load, would you care that someone else records a 30-cent per mile loss on that same load? Now, I'm sure a lot of you are thinking right now, but they are killing the industry with their own hands. And you know what? That is It's true, but people are not inclined to think about the collective effect. They're only thinking about themselves. It's sad, but it's true. And now the question of YouTube influencers and how they ruin the trucking market, or have ruined the trucking market. If not for those darn YouTubers who rang the make some quick money bell back in 2021, would capacity have increased as quickly as it did? Or someone like me, if I didn't make those weekly market updates and forecasts showing the better market areas to go to, wouldn't capacity naturally leave? Well, here's the thing, and I'll speak for myself at the moment. I don't make up the data. Think of me as a collector of numbers from open sources that are available to anyone and everyone. Now, I encourage you guys to do a news search on Google. I did it today. It was actually very interesting. Do a trucking news search from April 2020 until December 2021. What you will find is articles like Texas truck rates soaring on cross-border demand, or shipping costs truck rates soar despite demand below prior years, or trucking conditions index in double digits as freight rates strengthen. These are some of the headlines from that time period. Yes, of course, a YouTube video with a summary is a quicker and easier access to the news, but the thing is, the news is already out there. So now you guys are going to form again your own opinions of who is to blame for the current trucking conditions. Some days it will be the broker who gave you a cheap rate. Other days it's going to be the shipper who isn't budging. Some days it's going to be the carriers who are collectively taking cheap rates and ruining the market for everyone else. And other days it's going to be those social networks and folks who regurgitate the news in an easier to consume format. And you know what? This finger pointing, it's normal. It's human nature. But there is just one question I encourage you guys to keep in the front of your mind every single day, which is, considering the state of the current trucking market, the freight market, the industry as a whole, regardless of who is to blame, what can I do in order to make my operations better? The answers will vary on a day-to-day basis. For me, the answer is cut my costs and be very careful about where I send my trucks. Your answer will be different. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me today and listening to me, I guess, rant a little bit, but I know this is a triggering topic, and I know there are going to be a lot of opinions, but as I said in the beginning of the video, I'm very, very curious about what those opinions are, reading through the discussions. Just a reminder, please be considerate of others. This is a community where we learn, so you can disagree as much as you want with me, other people. Just do it in a professional way. Wishing you great rates, low costs, and high profits. See you in the next video.